I was 3 hours into my overnight shift in the emergency room when they brought him in. The paramedics were talking fast. Gunshot wound to the shoulder, stab wound to the abdomen, multiple lacerations, blood loss significant but not critical, patient unresponsive to questions, vital signs stable, no identification, no insurance information, nothing. Just a man bleeding on a stretcher who wouldn't speak and wouldn't look at anyone directly. My name is Elena Rodriguez, and I'm a trauma nurse at St. Catherine's Hospital in downtown Chicago. I've worked in emergency medicine for 5 years. I've seen gunshot wounds and stab wounds and every kind of trauma the city can throw at people. I've learned not to ask questions about how injuries happened, not to make assumptions about who deserves help and who doesn't. My job is to stop the bleeding and stabilize the patient. Everything else is someone else's problem. But this patient was different. I noticed it immediately when they wheeled him into Trauma Bay 3. He wasn't just refusing to answer questions, he was completely silent. Not unconscious, not in shock, just silent. His eyes were open, alert, tracking everything happening around him, but his jaw was set and his mouth stayed closed, and when Dr. Morrison asked him his name, he just stared at the ceiling like the doctor wasn't even there. "We need consent for treatment," Dr. Morrison said to the paramedics. "Did he give you anything, any kind of verbal agreement?" "Nothing. Found him in an alley off Michigan Avenue. Someone called it an anonymous. By the time we got there, he was alone. No ID, no wallet, no phone. Just bleeding and silent." Dr. Morrison looked frustrated. "Get the legal team involved. We'll treat under emergency protocol, but document everything. If he won't cooperate, we're gonna have problems." He turned to me. "Rodriguez, you're with me. Let's assess the damage and get him stabilized." I moved to the patient's left side, started checking vitals while Dr. Morrison examined the wounds. The gunshot was through and through, clean entry and exit. The shoulder would need stitches, but no major damage to bone or artery. The stab wound was more concerning, deep, and the lower abdomen. Could have hit organs. Would need imaging to be sure. The lacerations were defensive wounds, cuts on his hands and arms, from fighting back or shielding himself. "We need to cut his shirt off," I said, "get a better look at everything." I reached for medical scissors, started cutting through the expensive fabric, black dress shirt, silk, or something close to it, probably cost more than my weekly paycheck. Underneath were more scars, old ones, healed but visible. Bullet wounds, knife wounds, burns. This wasn't his first time being hurt. This wasn't even close to his first time. "Sir, I need you to stay still while we examine your injuries," I said, even though he hadn't moved, even though he hadn't given any indication he was listening. "This is going to hurt, but we need to clean the wounds before we can stitch you up. If you need pain medication, blink twice." Nothing. No blink, no acknowledgement, just that same steady stare at the ceiling. Dr. Morrison finished his examination. "Stab wound needs internal imaging, could be organ damage, but the gunshot is clean. Rodriguez, get him cleaned up and stitched. I'll order the CT scan. Maybe by the time we're done, he'll decide to talk." He left. I was alone with the silent patient and a tray full of supplies. I pulled up a stool and sat down next to him. "Okay, here's how this works. I'm going to clean your wounds, then I'm going to stitch the ones that need stitching. It's gonna hurt. If you want local anesthetic, let me know. If not, I'll do my best to be quick and careful. But you should know that staying still is going to make this easier for both of us." Still nothing, but I swore I saw something flicker in his eyes. Amusement, maybe? Or respect. Like he appreciated that I was talking to him like a person instead of a problem. I started with the gunshot wound. Cleaned the entry and exit holes. They were already clotting, which was good. The bullet had missed everything important, just torn through muscle and tissue. Would hurt like hell, but would heal clean. I worked quietly, efficiently. This was the part of my job I was good at. The mechanical process of repairing human bodies, of putting torn flesh back together, of making broken things functional again. The patient didn't make a sound, didn't flinch when I irrigated the wounds, didn't tense when I started stitching, just breathed steadily and stared at that ceiling like he was somewhere else entirely.
"You're tough," I said as I worked. "Most people would be screaming by now, or at least cursing, but you just take it. That's either really impressive pain tolerance, or you've been through this so many times you're used to it. I'm guessing the second one based on your scar collection." No response, but I saw his jaw tighten slightly, like maybe I'd hit close to something true. I finished the gunshot wound and moved to the stab wound. This one was messier. Deeper, would need more stitches. I cleaned it carefully, checked for debris or foreign objects, found nothing. The good news is the blade didn't leave anything behind. The bad news is this is deep enough that you're definitely getting a CT scan. Could be internal bleeding, could be organ damage, could be nothing, but we need to check. I started stitching. Small, careful sutures, the kind that would leave minimal scarring if they healed properly. My hands were steady. They always were. 5 years of emergency medicine had trained me to stay calm when other people were falling apart. So, here's what I'm wondering. You've got expensive clothes, professional-looking injuries, the kind that come from fights, not accidents. You show up in an alley with no idea, no willingness to talk. That suggests either you're running from something, or you're protecting something, or someone. And the fact that you're not screaming for police or demanding we call anyone tells me you don't trust authorities.
Which is either very smart or very stupid, depending on your situation. His eyes moved slightly, not to look at me, just a flicker of movement that said he was listening, that he heard everything I was saying, even if he wasn't responding. "I'm not going to ask you questions," I continued. "That's not my job. My job is to stop you from bleeding and make sure you don't die from these injuries. What happens after that is between you and Dr. Morrison and hospital administration. But I figure you should know that staying silent might protect you from some things, but it makes it harder for us to help you with others. Like if you're allergic to medications, or if you have conditions we should know about, or if there's someone you want us to call." Still nothing. I finished the stab wound stitches, moved to the defensive cuts on his hands and arms. These were shallower, would heal faster, but there were a lot of them. "You fought back hard," I said. "These cuts are from blocking, from defending yourself. Whoever came at you, you didn't just take it, you fought. That's good. Shows you want to live. Makes my job easier when patients actually want to survive." I thought I saw the corner of his mouth twitch, like maybe he wanted to smile but wouldn't let himself. I worked in silence for the next 20 minutes, cleaned and stitched every wound, bandaged everything that needed bandaging. By the time I was done, he looked like a patchwork of gauze and medical tape, but he was stable, alive, would heal if he didn't do anything stupid. Dr. Morrison came back just as I was finishing. "CT scan is ready. We'll take him up in 10 minutes. How's he doing?" "Stable. All wounds cleaned and stitched. No signs of infection yet. Still not talking." "Of course not. Why would he make our jobs easier?" Dr. Morrison leaned over the patient. "Sir, last chance. Is there anyone we should call? Anyone who should know you're here?" The patient's eyes moved to meet Dr. Morrison's. For just a second. Long enough to make it clear he'd heard the question. Long enough to make his answer obvious even without words. No. There was no one to call, or there was no one he wanted called. Same result either way. Dr. Morrison sighed. "Fine, we'll do the scan, figure out if you're bleeding internally, then we'll deal with the legal and administrative nightmare you've created by showing up here bleeding and silent." 2 orderlies came to take the patient to radiology. I watched them wheel him away, watched him stare at that ceiling the whole way down the hallway, like he was memorizing the pattern of the tiles, like he had nothing better to think about than hospital architecture. "That was weird," said Jessica, one of the other trauma nurses. She'd been watching from the nurse's station. "Silent guy with gunshot wounds. Think he's a criminal?" "I think it's not our business," I said. "We patched him up. That's what we do." "Yeah, but come on. You don't show up like that unless you're involved in something bad. Gang violence, drug deals, something." "Maybe. Or maybe he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Either way, he's someone's patient now. We did our job." I went to update his chart, documented everything. The wounds, the treatment, the fact that he'd refused to communicate, signed my name, and moved on to the next patient. Emergency rooms don't stop. There's always another person bleeding, another crisis, another life hanging in the balance. The rest of my shift passed normally. Car accident victim, broken bones, heart attack, overdose. the usual chaos of overnight emergency medicine. I didn't think about the silent patient again until my shift was ending at 7 in the morning. I was filling out final paperwork when Dr. Morrison found me. "Rodriguez, your silent patient from last night. He's gone." Gone? How is he gone? He has a stab wound. He needed monitoring. Apparently, he decided monitoring was optional. Sometime between his CT scan and when the nurses checked on him at 6, he got dressed and walked out. Left all the medical equipment, left the IV still attached to his arm, just got up and left. Did security see him? Security saw a man in black clothes leaving through the emergency exit. By the time they realized it might be our patient, he was gone. No cameras caught his face, no one stopped him, just vanished into the air. I felt something strange twist in my stomach. Not concern exactly, more like curiosity. Who leaves a hospital with fresh stitches and potential internal injuries? Who refuses all help and disappears into the city like they were never there? Did the CT show anything serious? Minor internal bruising, no organ damage. He'll be sore for a week, but he'll live. If he doesn't get himself killed doing whatever he does that results in gunshot wounds. Should we report this to police? Already did. They took the report, said they'd look into it, but without a name or ID or any way to track him, there's nothing they can do. He's just another John Doe who came and went, another statistic. Dr. Morrison paused. You did good work on those stitches. Clean, professional. If he takes care of them properly, they'll heal without complications. If he takes care of them. Big if. Yeah, well, that's his problem now. We did our part. I went home to my apartment in Lincoln Park. Small place, 1 bedroom, nothing fancy. But it was mine and it was clean, and after 12 hours in an emergency room dealing with other people's trauma, it felt like sanctuary. I took a shower, changed into comfortable clothes, made coffee, tried to sleep, but my brain wouldn't shut off. I kept thinking about the silent patient, about the scars on his body, about the way he had looked at the ceiling like he was calculating something, about how he'd walked out of the hospital against medical advice with an IV still attached to his arm. Who does that? Who risks their health and safety just to avoid answering questions? I finally fell asleep around noon, woke up at 6 in the evening, made dinner, got ready for another overnight shift. This was my life. Work, sleep, work, sleep. No time for dating or hobbies or any kind of social life beyond occasional drinks with coworkers. My job was demanding and exhausting and sometimes heartbreaking. But it was also the only thing I was really good at. The only thing that made me feel like I was making a difference. I got to the hospital at 10:30, early as always. I liked having time to check the board, see what kind of night we would likely have, plan accordingly. Jessica was at the nurse's station when I arrived. Her eyes went wide when she saw me. "Elena, oh my God, you need to see this." "See what?" "Just come with me." She practically dragged me down the hallway, past trauma bays, past patient rooms, all the way to the supply closet at the end of the floor. Why are we looking at a supply closet? We're not. We're looking at what's in front of the supply closet. She opened the door. I stopped breathing. The entire hallway was filled with roses. Not a dozen, not 2 dozen, hundreds of roses. Red roses in crystal vases. 300 roses if I had to guess, maybe more.
They lined the walls, covered every available surface, turned the sterile hospital corridor into something that looked like a wedding venue. What the hell is this? They arrived at 7 this morning. 300 roses, all addressed to you. The delivery guy said they were urgent, had to be delivered immediately. Signed card and everything. Jessica handed me a small envelope, cream-colored, expensive paper. My name written on the front in elegant handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a card with just a few words. "Thank you for your steady hands and kind words. You gave help to someone who had no right to expect it. I won't forget. The patient from Trauma Bay 3. I read it 3 times, looked at the roses, looked at Jessica, who was practically vibrating with curiosity. Your silent patient sent you 300 roses? Apparently. Elena, who is this guy? How did he afford this? Do you know how much 300 roses cost? I have no idea, but clearly more than most people have. This is insane. This is like movie romantic gesture insane. Do you have a secret admirer? Did something happen that you didn't tell me about? Nothing happened. I stitched his wounds. I talked to him while I worked because silence made me uncomfortable. That's it. That's the whole story.
That's not the whole story. Normal people don't send 300 roses to their nurse. Normal people send a thank you card, maybe a fruit basket, not this. She gestured at the overwhelming amount of flowers. This is excessive. This is statement making. This is, I want you to know I can afford 300 roses so you understand who you're dealing with. She wasn't wrong. This wasn't just thank you. This was something else. A message maybe, or a warning, or both. Did anyone else see these? Everyone saw these. The entire staff has been talking about it all day. Dr. Morrison thinks it's sweet. Sarah from cardiology thinks it's creepy. Tom from security wants to know if we should be worried about a stalker situation. It's not stalking, it's just gratitude. Excessive gratitude from a man who wouldn't even tell you his name? Who walked out of here with an IV still attached? Who does that, Elena? I didn't have an answer. I was too busy trying to process the fact that somewhere in the city, there was a man who'd been hurt badly enough to need emergency surgery, and within 24 hours had arranged for 300 roses to be delivered to a hospital. That kind of organization, that kind of resources, that suggested someone with money, with connections, with the ability to make things happen even while recovering from serious injuries. "What do you want me to do with all these?" Jessica asked. "I can't take them home. I don't have room for 300 roses." "Distribute them. Give them to patients. Put them in waiting rooms. Make people smile. That's probably what they're for anyway. Some of them have your name on the vases. Those ones you should probably keep." I looked at the roses more carefully. She was right. About 30 of the vases had small tags with my name. The rest were generic. Fine, I'll take the ones with my name. The rest can go wherever. It took 2 hours to distribute the roses throughout the hospital. We put them in patient rooms, in waiting areas, at the nurses' stations on every floor. The ones with my name stayed in the break room, where I could see them, but they weren't overwhelming my workspace. Everyone had questions. Everyone wanted to know who sent them, what the story was, whether I had a secret boyfriend I'd never mentioned. I told them the same thing every time. A patient I treated wanted to say thank you. That's all. Nothing romantic, nothing complicated, just gratitude. But even as I said it, I didn't quite believe it, because this didn't feel like simple gratitude. This felt like something bigger, something I didn't understand yet. My shift started at 11. Normal overnight emergency room chaos. Drunk driving accident, domestic violence victim, allergic reaction, asthma attack. Every hour brought something new. I stayed busy, stayed focused, tried not to think about the roses or the silent patient or what any of it meant. At 3 in the morning, things finally slowed down. I took my break in the break room, made coffee, sat down with my phone, checked messages, the usual routine. That's when I noticed the man standing outside the emergency room entrance. Tall, broad shoulders, wearing a black suit despite the late hour, just standing there. Not moving, not looking like he needed medical attention, just watching. I went to the window, looked more carefully. There were more men, all in black suits, all standing at various points around the entrance. 4 that I could see, maybe more that I couldn't. "Jessica, come look at this." She came over, looked out the window. Her expression went from curious to concerned. "Are those bodyguards? They look like bodyguards. Why are there bodyguards outside our emergency room at 3 in the morning?" I have no idea. I watched them for another minute. They weren't doing anything threatening, just standing, positioned at strategic points, watching the entrance, making sure... What? That people could get in safely? That no one caused problems? I didn't know. Tom from security came by a few minutes later. "Rodriguez, you see the guys outside? Hard to miss them. There's more. I counted 30 total. All around the building, all dressed the same, all just standing there watching. 30 bodyguards, just like there had been 300 roses? That couldn't be coincidence. Did they say what they're doing here?" One of them came inside, said they were hired to provide security for the hospital for the next week, said it was a private arrangement, paid for by an anonymous donor, showed me paperwork. It's all legitimate. Someone actually hired 30 bodyguards to watch our hospital. For a week? For a week, starting tonight. I felt that strange twist in my stomach again. The roses were gratitude. These bodyguards were something else. Protection. But protection from what? And for who?
This is about you, Jessica said quietly. The roses, the bodyguards, your silent patient. He's protecting you. Protecting me from what? I'm just a nurse who stitched him up. Why would I need protection? Because maybe whoever hurt him knows you helped him. Maybe he's worried they'll come after you. Maybe he's making sure that doesn't happen. She wasn't wrong. If the silent patient was involved in something dangerous enough to result in gunshot wounds, then anyone associated with him could be at risk, including the nurse who'd patched him up. But hiring 30 bodyguards seemed excessive. Seems like overkill, unless the danger was real, unless the threat was serious enough to warrant that level of security. I went back to work, tried to focus on patients and charts and the normal chaos of emergency medicine, tried not to think about the men standing outside, about what it meant that someone cared enough about my safety to hire protection, about who the silent patient really was, and what kind of world he lived in where this level of security was normal. The rest of my shift passed quietly. The bodyguard stayed outside. No incidents, no problems, just the knowledge that there were 30 armed men making sure nothing bad happened. When my shift ended at 7 a.m, I walked out the emergency room doors. One of the bodyguards stepped forward. Different man from the ones I'd seen earlier. Older, more professional looking. Ms. Rodriguez? Yes? My name is Marcus. I'm heading the security team that's been assigned to this hospital. I wanted to introduce myself and assure you that my men will be as unobtrusive as possible. We're here to make sure everyone stays safe. If you need anything, day or night, you can reach me at this number. He handed me a business card. Professional? Simple. Just a name and number. Who hired you? I'm not at liberty to say, but I can tell you that the person who arranged this security cares very much about your safety and wants to make sure nothing happens to you or the people you work with. Because I treated someone? Because I did my job? Because you showed kindness to someone who needed it. And in his world, kindness is rare enough to be protected. His world. The way Marcus said it made it clear that the silent patient's world was different from mine. Dangerous, complicated. The kind of place where kindness had to be guarded by 30 armed men. Thank you, I said. I think. You're welcome. Have a good day, Ms. Rodriguez, and don't worry, my team is very good at staying invisible. You probably won't even notice we're here. He walked back to his position. I went home. Tried to sleep. Couldn't. My apartment felt different knowing there was protection outside the hospital, knowing that somewhere in the city there was a man who'd been hurt and had decided my safety was important enough to arrange all of this. I lasted 3 days. 3 days of walking into work past bodyguards. 3 days of roses in the break room, 3 days of questions from coworkers and patients and everyone who noticed the increased security. 3 days of wondering who the silent patient really was and why he cared so much about a nurse he'd never even thanked verbally. On the 4th day, I made a decision. I was going to find him. I didn't know how, I didn't know where to start, but I needed answers. Needed to understand what I'd gotten myself into by doing my job and stitching up a wounded man. I started by Googling. Search for news stories about shootings or stabbings near Michigan Avenue the night he'd been brought in. Found 3 articles. One about a disturbance outside a nightclub, one about a robbery attempt, one about an unnamed incident that police were investigating. No details, no names, no way to know which, if any, were connected to my patient. I tried searching for information about the Bodyguard company. Found a website, professional, expensive looking, security services for high-profile clients, corporate protection, personal bodyguards, the kind of company that catered to wealthy people who needed serious protection, the kind of company that would cost thousands of dollars per day for 30 guards. I tried to figure out how to contact them. The website had a number, but when I called it, it just rang to a generic voicemail. No names, no way to leave a message that would reach anyone specific. I was about to give up when my phone rang. A known number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Ms. Rodriguez.
This is Marcus, the security team lead. How did you get my personal number? The same way we get most information. We're very good at our jobs. I'm calling because my employer would like to meet with you, to thank you personally for the care you've provided, if you're willing. Your employer, the silent patient? I didn't say that, but that's who you mean. I mean that someone appreciates what you did and would like to express that appreciation in person. No pressure, no obligation, just an opportunity to meet the man whose life you saved. I didn't save his life. I stitched some wounds. Dr. Morrison saved his life. Dr. Morrison treated his injuries. You treated him like a human being. There's a difference, and that difference matters to my employer. I thought about it. Meeting a man who'd been shot and stabbed and wouldn't talk to doctors, a man who could afford 300 roses and 30 bodyguards, a man who lived in a world different enough from mine that kindness needed to be protected. I should have said no. Should have recognized this was stepping into something I didn't understand. Should have kept my professional distance and let the whole thing fade into memory. Okay, I'll meet him, but somewhere public, during the day, and I'm telling people where I'm going. Of course, we wouldn't suggest anything else. There's a cafe on Clark Street, the Blue Door, tomorrow at 2 p.m. My employer will be there. He'll be alone, no bodyguards, no security, just him. How will I know who he is? You'll recognize him. Trust me. Marcus hung up. I sat there staring at my phone,
trying to decide if I'd just made a smart decision or a stupid one, trying to figure out what I was walking into. The next day, I told Jessica where I was going, made her promise that if I didn't text her by 3, she should call the police. She thought I was being paranoid. She was probably right. But I was also about to meet a man who had enough money and power to arrange massive displays of gratitude and security. A man who'd been shot and stabbed and had walked out of a hospital against medical advice. A man who'd survived whatever had put him in that trauma bay and apparently thrived enough to hire private security. The Blue Door was a small cafe in Lincoln Park. Quiet, unassuming, the kind of place locals loved and tourists never found. I arrived at exactly 2 o'clock, looked around. There were maybe 15 people inside. Couples having late lunch, a woman working on a laptop, an older man reading a newspaper. And in the corner booth, sitting with his back to the wall and a perfect view of the entrance, was him, the silent patient. He looked different without blood and hospital gowns. He was wearing dark jeans and a black sweater. His hair was styled. His face was clean. But I recognized him immediately. The strong jaw, the dark eyes, the way he sat perfectly still like he was conserving energy. He saw me and gestured to the empty seat across from him. I walked over, sat down, looked at him directly for the first time since I'd stitched him up. You came. His voice was deep, slightly accented. Russian maybe, or Eastern European. You sent 300 roses and 30 bodyguards. I figured I should at least hear what you have to say. Fair. Would you like coffee? Tea. They have excellent pastries here. Coffee. Black. He raised a hand slightly. A waitress appeared immediately, like she'd been waiting for his signal. 2 coffees, black, and 2 of the chocolate croissants. She left. He turned his attention back to me. Thank you for meeting me. I know this is strange. Strange is one word for it. Excessive would be another. You didn't need to send 300 roses. I wanted to make a statement, to show gratitude in a way that couldn't be ignored or dismissed. You helped me when you didn't have to, when I gave you no reason to beyond professional obligation. That deserves recognition. I was doing my job. No, you were doing more than your job. You talked to me, explained what you were doing, treated me like a person instead of a problem. Most medical staff don't do that, especially not with patients who won't cooperate. The coffee arrived. I took a sip. It was good. Better than hospital coffee. Better than anything I usually had time to make at home. Why didn't you talk? I asked. In the hospital, why stay silent? Because talking meant answering questions I couldn't answer. About who I am, how I got hurt, what I do.
Questions that would have complicated everything. So instead you said nothing and walked out with an IV still attached. He smiled slightly. That was less than ideal, but necessary. I don't do well in institutions, don't like being monitored or tracked or kept in one place. And I had things I needed to handle, like arranging for roses and bodyguards. Among other things, yes. Who are you, really? Because normal people don't have the resources to hire 30 bodyguards on short notice. Normal people don't show up with multiple gunshot wounds and defensive injuries and walk out of hospitals without explanation. You're right, I'm not normal people. My name is Dmitry Volkov. I run a private security and consultation firm. Import-export, risk management, the kind of work that sometimes puts me in dangerous situations. Import-export, that's what everyone with questionable businesses calls their work. I didn't say my business wasn't questionable. I said it was import-export. There's overlap. He took a sip of his coffee. I'm being honest with you because I think you deserve honesty after what you did. My business exists in gray areas, legal in some ways, complicated in others. I make good money doing things that most people couldn't or wouldn't do. And sometimes that results in situations where people tried to kill me. Like the night you showed up at my hospital. Like that night. Yes. Business disagreement that escalated. They brought guns and knives. I brought hand-to-hand combat training and stubbornness. They got the first few hits. I made sure they didn't get any more. Did you kill them? I'm not going to answer that question, but I will tell you that they're no longer a threat to anyone, including you. Why would I be a threat to anyone? I'm just a nurse. Because you helped me. Because in my world, anyone associated with me becomes a target. The people who came after me know I survived, know I went to a hospital. It's not hard to find out which hospital and who treated me, which means it's not hard to figure out that hurting you would hurt me. So the guards aren't protecting the hospital, they're protecting me. They're protecting everyone who works there, but yes, primarily you, because you showed me kindness and I won't let that kindness be punished. The guards will stay for another week. By then, the immediate danger will have passed. By then, the people who might want to hurt you will understand that you're under my protection, and touching you means going to war with me. And they don't want to go to war with you? No, they don't. He said it with certainty, with confidence that wasn't arrogance, just fact. This is insane. All of this, the roses, the guards, this meeting. I just did my job. You did more than your job. You gave me something I haven't had in a long time. Respect. Dignity. The sense that someone cared whether I lived or died beyond the professional obligation to keep patients alive. That matters to me more than you know. I didn't know what to say to that, so I ate my croissant instead. It was excellent. Perfectly flaky, rich chocolate filling. What happens now? I asked. Now you go back to your life. You work at your hospital. You help people the way you always have. The guards stay for another week, then disappear. The roses eventually die, and this becomes a strange story you tell at party someday about the time you treated a patient who sent you 300 roses. And you, what happens to you? I continue doing what I do, managing risks, handling problems, surviving in a world that's constantly trying to kill me. Same as always. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also the only life I know, the only life I'm good at. He finished his coffee. I have one request, if that's acceptable. What kind of request? If you ever need help with anything, call me. The number Marcus gave you reaches me directly, day or night. Whatever the problem, I'll help. No questions, no conditions, just let me return the favor you gave me. You already returned it. 300 roses is a pretty big favor. That was gratitude. This is something different. This is me making sure that the one person in this city who treated me like a human being has someone to call when she needs help. Please.
He handed me another business card. Heavier cardstock than Marcus's, expensive, just a name, Dmitry Volkov, and a phone number. I don't need help from someone who gets shot and stabbed as part of their normal business. Maybe not today, but someday you might. And when that day comes, I want you to know you have options, that you have someone who owes you a debt and will pay it without question. I took the card, put it in my wallet next to Marcus's. Okay, thank you, I think. You're welcome. And Elena, that's your name, right? Elena Rodriguez? Yes. Elena, thank you for everything, for your steady hands and kind words, for treating me with dignity when I gave you no reason to, for being exactly the kind of person this city needs more of. I won't forget what you did, and I won't let anyone harm you because of it. That's my promise. He stood up, put money on the table, more than enough to cover 2 coffees and pastries. Be safe, Elena Rodriguez, and if you ever need anything, call. I mean that. He left before I could respond, just walked out of the cafe and disappeared down the street. I sat there for another 10 minutes, processing, trying to understand what had just happened, trying to figure out if Dmitry Volkov was dangerous, or protective, or some combination of both. I texted Jessica, told her I was fine, that the meeting was strange but not threatening, that I'd explain when I saw her at work tonight. Then I went home and tried to go about my normal day, tried to forget about silent patients and excessive roses and bodyguards standing watch over hospitals. The next week passed normally. The bodyguards stayed outside the hospital, professional, unobtrusive. After a few days, people stopped noticing them. They just became part of the background, like the ambulances and the medical equipment and all the other things that made hospitals function. The roses eventually wilted. We threw most of them away. I kept a few dried petals. Didn't know why, just felt like I should have something physical to prove this had actually happened. On day 7, the bodyguards disappeared. I came to work one night and they were just gone. No announcement, no goodbye, just absent. Like they'd never been there. Marcus sent me a text. Threat has passed. Team is pulling out. Stay safe. If you need anything, you have the number. I stared at that text for a long time, wondering what threat has passed meant, wondering what Dmitry had done to make sure I was safe, wondering if I wanted to know the answer to that question. Life went back to normal after that. Normal shifts, normal patients, normal chaos of emergency medicine. I told myself to forget about Dmitry Volkov and his world of gray areas and dangerous situations. Told myself I'd done my job and he'd expressed gratitude, and that was the end of the story. But I kept his card in my wallet, kept it next to my driver's license and my credit cards, kept it somewhere I'd see it every day and remember that somewhere in the city there was a man who'd promised to help if I ever needed it. 2 months passed, then 3. I didn't hear from Dmitry, didn't see any bodyguards, didn't receive any more roses, just worked my shifts and lived my life, and tried to move forward. Then one night, everything changed. I was working late shift, normal chaos, car accident, broken bones, someone having a heart attack, the usual emergency room disasters. Around 2 a.m, a man came in with his wife. She was having contractions, going into labor, but something was wrong. She was bleeding more than she should. Her blood pressure was dropping, the baby was in distress. We rushed her to delivery, called for an obstetrician, did everything by the book. But the situation was deteriorating fast. The husband was panicking, demanding answers, getting more agitated by the second. Then he pulled out a gun. I don't know where he had it, maybe tucked in his waistband, maybe in a pocket, but suddenly there it was, a handgun, pointed at Dr. Morrison. Fix her. Do whatever you need to do to fix her, or I start shooting. Everyone froze. This was supposed to be a hospital, a safe place. We had security, but they were at the entrance, not on the floor with us, not close enough to help. Sir, Dr. Morrison said carefully, we're doing everything we can, but threatening us isn't going to help your wife. Put the gun down and let us work. No, you don't understand. She's everything to me. If she dies, I die. If that baby dies, I die. So you're going to save them both, or we're all going to die together. He was crying, hysterical. The gun was shaking in his hand.
One wrong move and he could shoot someone by accident. I should have been scared, should have been frozen, but instead my brain went to that card in my wallet, to Dimitri's promise. Whatever the problem, I'll help. I slowly reached for my phone, sent a text to the number on the card, just 3 words. Emergency, hospital, gun. I didn't know if he'd see it. Didn't know if he'd come, didn't know if he had anything to do, but I had to try. Dr. Morrison was still talking to the husband, trying to calm him down, trying to reason with him. Your wife needs surgery, emergency C-section. The baby is in distress and she's bleeding internally, but we can't do surgery with a gun pointed at us. We need you to trust us, to let us do our jobs. How do I know you'll save her? How do I know you won't let her die? Because that's our job. We save people. That's what we do every single day. We don't give up on patients. We fight for them. But you have to let us fight. The husband was wavering. You could see it in his face. He wanted to believe, wanted to trust, but fear was overwhelming everything else. That's when the door opened. Dmitry Volkov walked in. He was wearing dark clothes, moving with that same quiet confidence I'd seen in the cafe. He looked at the scene, assessed everything in seconds, then spoke. "Sir, my name is Dmitry. I'm going to ask you to put the gun down." The husband swung toward him, gun shaking. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" I walked in, and I'm someone who understands fear. Who understands wanting to protect the people you love. But this isn't the way. These people are trying to help your wife. Threatening them only makes everything harder. You don't understand. She's dying. My baby is dying. Then let these people do their jobs. They're good at what they do. I know because one of these nurses saved my life 2 months ago. She stitched me up when I was bleeding out, treated me with respect when I gave her no reason to. These are good people. Trust them. I can't risk it. I understand. But you're not risking anything by putting the gun down. You're just giving these doctors the space they need to work, to focus on your wife instead of on not getting shot. That's all I'm asking. Give them space. Let them help. Dmitry moved closer, slowly, hands visible, no threat. I know you're scared. I know everything feels out of control, but you have to trust someone. And these people have dedicated their lives to saving others. They won't give up on your wife. I promise you that. But you have to let them work. The husband was crying harder now. What if they can't save her? Then they tried everything they could. And you'll know that you gave her the best possible chance. But if you keep pointing that gun, you're taking away that chance. You're making it harder for them to focus. Please, put it down. Let them work. Something in Dmitry's voice, the calm, the understanding, the lack of judgment, it reached through the husband's panic. He lowered the gun, not all the way, but enough. "Can you save her?" he asked Dr. Morrison. "I don't know, but I'm going to try everything I can. That's my promise to you. But I need you to give me the gun and sit down and let us work. Can you do that?" The husband nodded, handed the gun to Dmitry, collapsed into a chair, started sobbing. Dmitry secured the gun, nodded to security, who'd finally arrived. They took the husband to a separate room, not under arrest, just separated from the medical team so they could work. Dr. Morrison looked at Dmitry. "Thank you. That could have gone very differently. I'm glad I could help. Take care of his wife. He's not a bad man. Just a scared man who made bad choices. Don't let him lose everything because of this." "We won't. We'll do everything we can." Dr. Morrison and the medical team rushed the woman to surgery. The rest of us stood there, processing what had just happened. Dmitry turned to me. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. How did you get here so fast?" "I was close, and when you sent that text, I drove fast. Very fast. Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm sure. Thank you. For coming, for talking him down, for everything. You called, I came. That was the deal. Anytime you need help, I'm there. No questions, no conditions. How did you know what to say? How did you know how to reach him? Because I've been that scared before. I've made bad choices because I was afraid of losing something important. I understood what he was feeling, so I spoke to that, to the fear, to the desperation, and he heard me. Security wanted to take statements. Dmitri gave his information, explained what happened. They let him go after 30 minutes. Before he left, he found me in the break room. You called the right person. I'm glad I could help. I didn't know who else to call. You said if I ever needed anything, and I meant it. What happened tonight, this is exactly why I gave you that number, so you'd have someone to call when things went wrong. It could have gone so much worse, but it didn't, because you kept your head, because you called for help, because you trusted me to show up. That takes courage. Or desperation. Sometimes those are the same thing. He handed me another card. This one had different information, an address. This is where I live. If you ever need somewhere safe to go, if you ever need help that can't be solved with a phone call, come here. Day or night, you'll be safe. Why are you doing this? Why do you care so much about a nurse who stitched you up one time? Because kindness is rare in my world, and when someone shows it to me, I protect it. I make sure nothing bad happens to them because of that kindness. You did something good for me, let me do something good for you. This feels like more than just returning a favor. Maybe it is. Maybe somewhere along the way I decided you were worth protecting, worth keeping safe, worth making sure nothing bad happens to. Is that wrong? I don't know. Maybe, but I'm too tired to figure it out right now. He smiled. Get some rest. And Elena, thank you for calling, for trusting me. It means more than you know. He left. I sat in the break room with his card, stared at the address, wondered what it would be like to go there, to see where Dmitri Volkov lived, to step further into his world. The woman from the emergency survived. So did her baby. Dr. Morrison did surgery for 4 hours, fixed the bleeding, delivered the baby by emergency C-section. Both mother and child were stable by morning. The husband was arrested, but not for long. The hospital didn't press charges, said it was a mental health crisis, said he needed help, not jail time. He got counseling, probation, a second chance because the medical team understood fear and desperation and the stupid choices people make when they're losing everything. I thought about Dimitri's words. I've been that scared before. I've made bad choices because I was afraid of losing something important. What had he lost? What had made him understand that husband's fear so perfectly? I wanted to know, wanted to understand the man who'd walked into an emergency room and talked down an armed husband without breaking a sweat. The man who'd promised to protect me. The man who kept showing up when I needed help. 3 days after the gun incident, my apartment was broken into. I came home from a day shift to find my door forced open, my apartment trashed, drawers pulled out, furniture overturned, electronics stolen, my whole life violated. I called the police. They came, took a report, said it was probably random, that my building wasn't in the best neighborhood.
That I should get better locks, better security, be more careful. I called Dmitri. He answered on the first ring. Elena, what's wrong? My apartment was broken into. Everything is destroyed. They took my laptop, my TV, some jewelry. I don't know what else yet. Are you safe? Are you at the apartment now? I'm safe. I'm here with police. Stay there. I'm coming. He arrived 20 minutes later, walked in like he owned the place, looked at everything, asked questions the police hadn't asked. Was anything moved that wasn't valuable? Papers, documents, anything personal? My bedroom was torn apart. They went through everything, but I don't keep anything important here. Just bills, lease agreements, normal stuff. Did they take any of that? I don't think so. Everything seems to be here, just thrown around. Dmitri looked at the police. This wasn't random. This was targeted. Someone was looking for something specific. The police officer looked skeptical.
What makes you say that? Because random thieves take valuables and leave. They don't tear apart bedrooms looking through personal papers. They don't spend time searching. They grab and go. This was someone looking for something. What would anyone want from a nurse's apartment? Information, connections, anything that could be used as leverage. He looked at me. Elena, have you had any unusual encounters lately? Anyone asking about you, following you, acting strange? No, nothing like that. Just normal work, normal life. There's nothing interesting about me worth breaking in for, except your connection to me, except the fact that you treated me, that you have my number, that you called me for help. Anyone who knows about that might think you know more than you do, might think you have information about me or my business. But I don't. You never told me anything. I know. But they don't know that. To them, you're someone I protected, someone I sent roses and guards for, someone I showed up to help. That makes you interesting. That makes you a potential source of information. The police finished their report, said they'd look into it, said to call if I remembered anything else, left me standing in my destroyed apartment with Dmitri. You can't stay here, he said. It's not safe. If someone came once, they could come again. Where am I supposed to go? I can't afford a hotel. I can barely afford this apartment. You come with me. To my place. The address I gave you. You stay there until we figure out who did this and why. I can't just move in with you. I barely know you. You know I kept my promise. You know I showed up when you needed help. You know I'm offering you safety when you don't have any. That's enough for now. He was right. I didn't have other options. Couldn't stay in an apartment with a broken door, couldn't afford a hotel, didn't have family in the city. My friends had roommates and small apartments. No space for a temporary guest. Okay, just for a few days, until I figure something else out. As long as you need. Come on, pack a bag. Bring whatever you need. Everything else can wait. I packed quickly. Clothes, toiletries, my nursing bag with supplies, a few books. Enough for a week, maybe. Dmitri waited. Didn't rush me. Didn't make me feel like a burden. Just stood watch, making sure no one came back. His apartment was in a building I'd never been to. Expensive area. The kind of place with doormen and security and elevators that required keycards. We rode up to the 15th floor. He unlocked a door and let me in. The apartment was incredible. Open floor plan, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked expensive but comfortable, art on the walls, books everywhere. It didn't look like what I'd expected. I'd expected cold, clinical, the kind of place that felt like a hotel. This felt like a home. Guest room is down the hall, second door on the right. Private bathroom, everything you need. Make yourself comfortable. Thank you. For this. For everything. I'll pay you back somehow. You already paid me back. You saved my life. This is just returning the favor. Again. He smiled slightly. I seem to keep returning favors to you. Maybe I should stop getting into situations where I need your help. Maybe you should stop getting shot and stabbed. That would be ideal. But unlikely given my business. He showed me the guest room. It was beautiful. Large bed, comfortable furniture, windows with a view, bathroom with a tub and shower, and more counter space than my entire apartment had. This is too much. It's a guest room. It's meant to be used. You're a guest. Therefore, it's exactly enough. I set my bag down, looked around, tried to process that I was staying in Dmitri Volkov's apartment, living in his space, deeper in his world than I'd ever intended to be. I need to figure out who broke into your apartment, Dmitri said, and why. But that's going to take time. In the meantime, you're safe here. Building has excellent security. No one gets past the lobby without clearance. And I have additional measures in place. You don't need to worry. What kind of additional measures? The kind that ensure anyone trying to hurt you has to go through me first. And trust me, no one wants to do that. He said it casually, but there was steel underneath.
A promise and a threat wrapped together. I believed him. We ordered dinner. Chinese takeout from a place Dmitri said was the best in the city. He was right. We ate at his dining table, talked about nothing important. Work, the city, movies we'd seen. Normal conversation. Like this was a normal situation. Like I was hiding in his apartment because someone had broken into mine. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you live alone? Someone with your resources, your business? I'd expect you to have, I don't know, staff, security, people around. I have people, but they don't live here. This is my space, my sanctuary. The one place where I don't have to be Dmitri Volkov, who runs a private security firm, where I can just be Dmitri, who reads books and watches movies and pretends life is simpler than it is.
Do you have family? Friends? Family is complicated. My parents are back in Russia. We don't talk much. Some cousins in Europe. A brother I haven't seen in 5 years. Friends, a few, but not many. Trust is expensive in my line of work. Friendship even more so. That sounds lonely. It is. But it's also safe. Caring about people makes you vulnerable. Makes you weak. I learned that a long time ago. Is that why you live like this? Why you keep everyone at arm's length? Partly. Also because I've lost people. People I cared about. People who got hurt because of me. Because of my work. Because someone wanted to hurt me and used them to do it. I decided after that to keep my life simple. Minimal connections. Minimal vulnerability. It's better for everyone that way. But you protected me. Sent bodyguards. Showed up when I called. That's not keeping me at arm's length. No, that's me being stupid. That's me caring about someone even though I know better. Even though I know it puts you at risk, but I can't help it. You showed me kindness, and I can't walk away from that. We finished dinner. He showed me how to use the TV, the coffee maker, the security system, gave me keys to the apartment and the building, made sure I knew I could come and go as I pleased. I have to work tomorrow, business meetings, but you're welcome to stay here. Use whatever you need. Treat this like your home. If you need anything, call. I'll answer. Thank you, really, for everything. You keep thanking me. Stop. We're past that. We're something else now. I don't know what, but something beyond patient and nurse, beyond favors owed. Something more. What does that mean? I don't know yet, but I think we should figure it out. If you want to. No pressure, no expectations, just an option. I looked at him, at this complicated man who'd walked into my emergency room and somehow become part of my life, who kept showing up, who kept protecting me, who kept offering help without asking for anything in return. Okay, we figure it out. Whatever this is. He smiled. Real smile. Not the small, controlled ones I'd seen before. This one reached his eyes, made him look younger, less dangerous, more human. I stayed at Dmitri's apartment for a week. He worked during the day, I worked my shifts at night. We passed each other coming and going, sometimes had breakfast together, sometimes dinner. Talked about our days, our work, our lives, got to know each other beyond the crisis moments. I learned that he read constantly, that he collected first edition books, that he could cook better than any restaurant I'd been to, that he was actually funny when he relaxed, that he watched terrible action movies and loved them unironically. He learned that I was terrible at cooking, that I'd wanted to be a doctor but couldn't afford medical school, that I read romance novels and cried at sad movies, that I worried constantly about everything, that I'd been alone since my last relationship ended badly 2 years ago. We became friends, or something like friends, the kind of relationship that forms when two people are forced into proximity and find out they actually enjoy each other's company. On day 8, Dmitri came home early, found me in the living room reading. I have news about your apartment. Good news or bad news? Complicated news. The break-in wasn't random. It was someone looking for information about me.
They thought because I protected you that you might know something useful. Obviously, you don't, but they didn't know that until they searched. Did you find out who it was? I did, and I handled it. They won't bother you again. But your apartment is still not safe. The lock is broken. The door is damaged. Anyone could get in. I don't want you going back there until it's properly secured. I can't stay here forever, Dimitri. This is your space, your home. I'm imposing. You're not imposing. I don't know what you are, but you're not imposing. He sat down on the couch. Elena, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want you to leave. Not because of safety, not because you need protection, but because I've gotten used to having you here, to coming home and knowing someone is here, to having dinner with someone who is not afraid of me, to feeling less alone. Dimitri, I know it's selfish. I know you have your own life and your own apartment, and I have no right to ask you to stay. But I'm asking anyway. Stay. Not as my guest, not as someone under my protection. Just stay. Because I want you here. Because this place feels more like home with you in it. I should have said no. Should have recognized this was getting too complicated, too deep, too real. But I looked at him and saw something I'd never expected. Vulnerability. Hope. The kind of honesty that costs something. Okay, I'll say. For now. But we need rules, boundaries, clear expectations about what this is and isn't. Fair. What kind of rules? You don't control my life. I come and go as I please. I keep working my shifts. I maintain my independence. This isn't me becoming dependent on you or your protection or your resources. Agreed.
And we're honest with each other. About everything. No secrets, no lies, no pretending this is something it's not. If this is friendship, we call it friendship. If it becomes something else, we acknowledge that. But we're honest. I can do that. And if either of us wants to end this arrangement, we can. No hard feelings, no drama, just a clean break, if needed. That one's harder, but yes. If you want to leave, you can leave. I won't stop you. But I'll miss you, just so you know. I'd miss you too. That admission felt bigger than it should have. More significant. Like I was acknowledging something I'd been avoiding thinking about. That somewhere along the way, Dmitry Volkov had become important to me. That I cared about him beyond gratitude or obligation. That I was choosing to stay, not because I needed protection, but because I wanted to be here. We fell into a routine after that. He worked, I worked. We shared meals when our schedules aligned, watched movies together, read in comfortable silence. It was domestic, normal, the kind of life I'd never imagined having with someone like him. 2 months passed, then 3. My apartment was repaired. New locks, new door, better security. Dmitry had arranged it all, paid for it all, said it was the least he could do. But I didn't move back. Didn't even consider it. I was comfortable where I was. Happy, even. Living with Dmitry had become normal, had become home. Then one night, everything shifted. We were watching a movie, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. Normal Saturday night. Dmitry's phone rang. He looked at it. His expression changed, went cold and hard in a way I'd never seen. I need to take this. He went into his office, closed the door. I heard his voice, sharp, angry, speaking Russian. I didn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. Something was wrong. He came out 20 minutes later. I have to leave. Tonight. It's business. It's complicated and potentially dangerous. I'll be gone for maybe a week, maybe longer. What's wrong? Someone is challenging my business, trying to take over territory I control. I need to handle it before it escalates into something worse. Is this the kind of handling that ends with you in my emergency room? I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen.
but it's a possibility. Yes. Then don't go. Let someone else handle it. Stay here, where it's safe. I can't. This is my responsibility, my business, my problem to solve. If I don't handle this now, it becomes worse, becomes a war, becomes the kind of thing that gets innocent people hurt. He came closer. But I need you to promise me something. What? If something happens to me, if I don't come back, everything here is yours. The apartment, the money in the safe, the contacts in my phone, everything. I've left instructions with my lawyer. You'll be taken care of. Don't talk like that. You're coming back. Probably. But just in case, I need you to know you're important to me. More important than I planned, more important than I should probably let anyone be, but you are. And if something happens, I need you to be okay. Promise me you'll be okay. Dimitri, promise me. I promise. But you have to promise me you'll come back. That you'll be careful, that you won't do anything stupid. I promise I'll try. That's the best I can offer. He kissed my forehead, gentle, careful, like he was memorizing the moment. Then he left, packed a bag, made phone calls, walked out the door without looking back. I sat on the couch for a long time after he left, trying not to think about all the ways this could go wrong, trying not to imagine him hurt, or worse, trying to believe his promise that he'd come back. 5 days passed. No word, no calls, no texts, just silence. I went to work, came home, existed in his apartment, surrounded by his things, waited. On day 6, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Miss Rodriguez? Yes? This is Marcus, Mr. Volkov's security lead. He asked me to call you. He's been injured. He's alive, but he needs medical attention and he won't go to a hospital. Where is he? His apartment. He came back an hour ago. He's not in good shape. He's asking for you. I left immediately, took a cab, ran from the lobby to the elevator, got to the apartment in record time. Marcus met me at the door. He's in his bedroom, lost some blood, has some injuries that need cleaning and stitching, says he trusts you more than any hospital. I found Dimitri in his room. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, shirtless, bleeding from multiple cuts and what looked like a bullet graze on his ribs. Elena, you came. Of course I came. What happened? Business disagreement got physical. I handled it, but I paid a price. He tried to smile, winced instead. Think you can patch me up again, for old time's sake? I need supplies. My nursing bag. It's in the guest room. Marcus, get her bag and the first aid kit from the bathroom, and maybe some whiskey. This is going to hurt.
I worked on Dimitri for an hour. Cleaned wounds, stitched cuts, bandaged the bullet graze. He didn't complain, didn't flinch, just watched me work with those dark eyes. You're good at this, he said. I've had practice, mostly on you. Lucky me. He touched my hand. Thank you. For coming. For helping. For being here when I needed you. You came when I needed you, multiple times. This is just returning the favor. We keep returning favors to each other. Maybe we should stop keeping score. Maybe we should. I finished the last bandage, looked at him, at this man who'd kept getting hurt and kept surviving and kept coming back. You scared me when you didn't call, when I didn't hear from you. I thought something worse had happened. I'm sorry. Communication was difficult and dangerous. I couldn't risk leading anyone back here, back to you. Is it over, the business problem? It's handled, resolved in a way that ensures it won't happen again. But it cost me, financially, politically, physically, but it's done. Good, then maybe you can stop getting shot and stabbed for a while. That's the plan. He pulled me closer. Elena, I need to tell you something. While I was gone, while I was handling this, all I could think about was getting back here, getting back to you. Not because this is my apartment,
but because you're here. Because somewhere along the way you became mine, and I became yours, and I don't know what to do about that except acknowledge it. Dimitri, I know it's complicated. I know my life is dangerous and messy and not what you signed up for, but I can't pretend anymore. Can't pretend this is just a living arrangement or friendship or protection. It's more. You're more. And I need to know if you feel it too. I looked at him, at this wounded man who'd protected me and helped me and become the most important person in my life without me even realizing it was happening. I feel it too. I have for weeks, maybe longer. But I was scared. Scared of what it meant. Scared of getting involved with someone who lives the way you do. Scared of losing you. You won't lose me. I'm too stubborn to die, and too attached to you to go anywhere. He kissed me. Real kiss. Not forehead. Not gentle. Real and desperate and full of everything we'd been holding back. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. This is going to be complicated, I said. I know. Your world is dangerous. Your business is questionable. I'm going to worry every time you leave. Every time you're late coming home. Every time you don't answer your phone. I know, but I'll always come back. That's my promise. No matter what, I'll always come back to you. Okay, then we try. But we do it honestly. No secrets about your business or your work or the dangers. I need to know what I'm dealing with, what I'm accepting by being with you. Fair. I'll tell you everything. The good and the bad. The legal and the less legal. All of it. You deserve to know. We spent that night talking. He told me about his business, about the gray areas he operated in, about the violence and danger and moral compromises, about the people he'd hurt and the people he'd lost, about the world he lived in and what it meant to be part of it. I told him about my fears, about my need for honesty, about my expectation that he'd take care of himself, about what I needed from him if this was going to work. We made agreements, set boundaries, established rules, did everything two people should do when starting a relationship that came with complications and dangers most couples never face. And then we just were together, as partners, as equals, as two people who'd found each other in the strangest way possible and decided to build something despite all the reasons not to. That was a year ago. I still work at the hospital, still patch up trauma patients and work overnight shifts, still do the job I love. But now I come home to Dimitri, to the man who sent me 300 roses and 30 bodyguards, to the man who keeps his promises, to the man who's taught me that protection and love aren't always separate things.
To the man who's shown me that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who care most deeply. His world is still complicated, still dangerous, still full of gray areas and moral compromises. But he's never lied to me, never hidden who he is or what he does, never made me feel less than or controlled. And I've never asked him to be something he's not, never tried to change him or fix him or make him fit into a normal life. We've just found a way to make it work, to build something real out of something that started with silence and stitches and a promise to help. My coworkers still ask about the roses, about the bodyguards, about the mysterious patient who made such an impression. I tell them he was grateful, that he wanted to say thank you, that it turned into friendship and eventually more. I don't tell them everything. Don't explain about the break-in or the protection or the business disagreements that result in gunshot wounds. That's private. That's ours. Dimitri still gets hurt sometimes, still comes home bleeding occasionally, still operates in a world where violence is part of doing business. But I patch him up, clean his wounds, stitch what needs stitching, and he holds me and promises to be more careful, and mostly keeps that promise. We're building a life together, strange and unconventional and probably not what anyone would recommend, but it's ours, and it works.
and I wouldn't change it. My name is Elena Rodriguez. I'm a trauma nurse who stitched up a silent patient. The next day, I got 300 roses and 30 bodyguards, and somehow that led to this, to love, to partnership, to a life I never expected, with a man I never should have met. People ask if I regret it, if I wish I'd let someone else treat him that night, if the complications and dangers are worth it. The answer is simple, no regrets, because Dmitry Volkov walked into my emergency room bleeding and silent and changed my life, because he kept his promises, because he showed me that protection can be love and love can be protection, because he gave me a home and a partnership and a future I didn't know I wanted, and because sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places. From a silent patient who wouldn't talk but sent roses to say thank you. From a man who lives in gray areas but sees me in full color. From a night in a trauma bay that led to everything I have now. So when people ask about the roses and the bodyguards and the mysterious patient, I smile and I tell them the truth. He was grateful. He was protective. He was someone who kept his promises, and he was the best thing that ever happened to me, even if it started with silence and stitches, and me just doing my job. Did you like my story? What city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your support. I'm looking forward to your comments. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect,